Hello dear students, and welcome to today's tutorial class. And in this particular class we are going to continue with our discussion of the play The Merchant of Venice, and here we are going to do Act 2 Scene 7. Now this is the first of the three scenes where a suitor makes his choice of the three caskets. Here the Prince of Morocco is attracted by the gold casket, which says, "Who chooseth me shall gain what many men desire." In fact, he is dazzled by the outward appearance of gold and chooses the wrong casket, which contains a skull. Thus, he loses the lottery and leaves at once with a heavy heart. Portia is relieved of having got rid of a suitor whom she does not like. Now, this scene is a world famous scene for its moral lesson, and it is akin or related to a parable. The inscription on the gold casket, "All that glitters is not gold." So these were the words that were inscribed on the gold casket, and this inscription is an often quoted aphorism implying that appearances can be deceptive. Shakespeare's moral here is very loud and clear. Gold symbolizes wealth and sensory beauty, both of which are transitory, impermanent. The scene's thematic concern is appearance versus reality, and it also touches upon knowledge, ignorance, human ego, and bias that seem inevitable. It must be kept in mind that these inscriptions on different caskets are meaningful philosophical constructs that a mind free from bias alone could decipher. Moreover, it would reveal the suitor's character. Morocco has been accorded in this scene with a long speech to enable him to pause and hesitate over his choices and prolong the suspense of the dramatic moment by his ponderings. In this scene, the dramatist has also used imageries. As said before, gold denotes riches, silver symbolizes chill purity, and lead stands for equity. In the medieval tradition, the skull signified that all earthly riches can be reduced to effigies of death. Therefore, its uses in the gold casket apprises the audience of the implied mortality. Now, things would become gradually even more clear when we discuss this particular scene line by line. So, let us try to understand this scene. So, scene 7 takes place in Belmont, and it takes us back to the casket plot, and this is the first of the three scenes where a suitor who had come to Belmont makes his choice of the three caskets. So this particular scene takes place in Belmont in a room in Portia's house where the three caskets are kept. There is flourish of cornets to announce the arrival of the Prince of Morocco, and after the flourish of cornets, Portia and the Prince of Morocco enter with their trains. Trains here means along with their attendants. Now Portia instructs, go, draw aside the curtains and discover the several caskets to this noble prince. Now make your choice. So here discover means disclose, show. So Portia instructs one of her attendants to go and draw aside the curtains so that the three caskets of gold, silver, and lead could be disclosed to the Prince of Morocco. And then the Prince of Morocco can make his choice. Now, the Prince of Morocco begins to go through the inscriptions on each of the caskets. He says the first of gold. So when he begins to inspect the caskets, the first casket that he comes across is the gold casket. And the gold casket bears the inscription, who chooseth me shall gain what many men desire. You see, this is the gold casket with the inscription, who chooseth me shall gain what many men desire. Then he comes to the second casket, that is the silver casket, and the inscription on the silver casket is, who chooseth me shall gain what he deserves. Then finally he comes to the lead casket, but before reading the inscription on the lead casket, you see the attitude of Prince of Morocco, how he describes the lead casket. He did not use so far any adjective to describe gold, nor did he use it for the case of silver casket. But when he comes to the lead casket, he says this third dull lead with the warning all as blunt. So the third casket is the dull lead casket, and it carries a plain dull warning as of the material it is made of. So that clearly shows that Prince of Morocco takes into consideration only the external appearances of the caskets to make his choice. That is the reason why he has a strong dislike towards the lead casket, as he feels that lead is dull, insignificant as compared to that of gold and silver. And the inscription on the lead casket was, who chooseth me shall give and hazard all he hath. So the gold casket said, who chooseth me shall get what many men desire. So many men desire gold, wealth, many things. So what they desire can be obtained by choosing the gold casket. That is what the inscription on the gold casket is. Silver casket read that whoever chooseth the silver casket will get as much as he deserves. He will not get anything less or anything more. He will get exactly according to his deservings. Whereas the inscription on the lead casket was threatening, was alarming, as it sent a warning through the cities. And it read as, whoever chooses the lead casket has to hazard. Hazard means he has to take the risk of losing everything that he has. So if he loses everything that he has, this comes as a warning to the suitors. However, Prince of Morocco begins to ponder, and having read the three caskets, he inquires of Portia, "How shall I know if I do choose the right?" Prince of Morocco raises the question that how would he come to know whether he has chosen the right casket or not? In response to this, Portia tells him that one of those caskets contains her picture, her portrait. You see, this is the portrait of Portia. So she says one of the caskets contains her portrait, and if Prince of Morocco chooses that particular casket, then he would emerge victorious in the lottery of casket, and therefore he would become the rightful husband of Portia. Then Morocco now begins to reflect once again on all the three caskets. And before he goes on to make the judgment, he says, "Some God direct my judgment. May he be guided by some heavenly power as he makes his judgment, as he makes his choice in the lottery of casket." And he says, "Let me see. I will survey the inscriptions back again." So let me see. Before making his choice, he takes his own time so that he does not commit any error. And he goes through the inscription once again, but this time in a reverse order. On the earlier occasion, he went from gold, silver, lead. Now this time he comes in a reverse order, that is lead, silver and gold. So he says, "What says this leaden casket? Who chooseth me must give and hazard all he hath." Must give for what? For lead? Hazard for lead? This casket threatens. So when he inspects the inscription on the lead casket once again, when he reflects on it, he says that the lead casket bears the inscription that whoever chooses the lead casket has to take the risk of losing everything he has. He has to hazard everything. But take the risk for what? Hazard for what? What should a man give his entire possessions for? For the sake of lead? Hazard take the risk for the sake of lead? So, according to Prince of Morocco, the lead casket gives a threat, a warning to the suitors. And then he concludes that men that hazard all do it in hope of fair advantages. Okay. So a man who takes the risk of losing everything in his life, he does so in the hope of getting some good returns. But here, what is the thing that he is going to get in return? A dull, blunt metal, lead. So any person would hesitate to risk all his belongings, all his possessions for the sake of lead. And those people who take the risk of losing everything, they do so in the hope of getting some fair advantages. But in this case, the reward is not promising, is not fair at all. And he also concludes that a golden mind stoops not to shows of dross. Okay, a golden mind. A golden mind here refers to a noble mind. So the Prince of Morocco, we know that he is a soldier prince, and he had a very high opinion of himself. He used to hold himself in high esteem. He was a very boastful person, and he considers himself to be a man with a noble mind because of his noble upbringing, because of the fact that he was a prince. And according to him, a man who has a noble mind, he would never lower himself to pick up something or to consider something which is as worthless as let. So, giving these arguments, he finally decides that he will not give anything for the sake of lead casket. He is not willing to give nor take the risk of losing anything for the sake of lead casket. Now, when we are doing this particular part, we need to know that why the Prince of Morocco failed in the lottery casket. Which casket the Prince of Morocco finally chose and for what reason. And at the same time, we must also know that why did he refuse to choose the other two caskets. So he refused to choose the lead casket because according to him, the lead casket threatened him, was bore a warning, and he thought that it would not be wise enough to take the risk of losing anything for the sake of lead, which is very dull metal. And he says people who take the risk of losing anything, they do so in the hope of getting some fair reward, in the hope of getting some good returns, but in this case the reward is not fair at all. And also, since he considered himself to be a noble prince, therefore he felt that it would be very unwise on his part to lower himself to consider something which is as insignificant and as worthless as that of lead. And on these grounds, he decides that he will not choose the lead casket. He is not willing to risk anything for the sake of lead casket. Though there are more reasons to his refusal of lead casket, and that is dealt later. Then he moves to the next casket, that is the silver casket. You can see the image of the silver casket. And he says, what says the silver with her virgin hue? Silver with a virgin hue. You see the silver casket is white in color. So it is a sign of purity, virginity, chastity, okay, so pure color. And he says, who chooseth me shall get as much as he deserves. So the inscription on the lead casket is, who chooseth me shall get as much as he deserves. So anyone who chooses the lead casket will get exactly what he deserves. And then the Prince of Morocco begins to reflect on the phrase as much as he deserves. He says, as much as he deserves. Pause there, Morocco, and weigh thy value with an even hand. So he pauses there. He instructs himself that he must stop there and he must try to weigh his value, to find out his worth with an impartial hand, with an impartial estimation. And he says, if thou best rated by thy estimation, thou doth deserve enough. So if he is judged by in his own estimation, then he feels that he really deserves enough. But still he is doubtful that though being a prince, he may deserve enough, but that enough may not be sufficient to win the hand of Portia in marriage. Okay. So, and yet to be afeard of my deserving were but a weak disabling of myself. So when the Prince of Morocco thinks that though he deserves enough, yet that deserving, yet that merit may not be sufficient enough to win Portia's hand in marriage, when he is thinking that he is bringing discredit to himself, which may work against his chances of winning the lady, because that might be a sign of weakness in him. As much as I deserve, why, that is the lady. Okay. So he says, as much, he again reflects that why, that is the lady. He's talking of Portia and he wants to find out whether he truly deserves Portia or not. And he concludes that he does deserve Portia in birth because he is a prince of noble birth, just like Portia is a princess of noble birth. And he deserves Portia in fortune, in wealth. He is as wealthy as Portia. And he also feels that he deserves Portia in graces and in qualities of breeding. In graces means in natural virtues, and in their upbringing and education they are alike. So for all these reasons, okay, since they both are of noble birth, since they are equal in wealth, they have natural virtues, they have uh, similar upbringing and education, therefore he feels that he truly deserves Portia. So therefore he says that, and more than these things, he deserves Portia in love because he feels that he truly loves Portia. And therefore he concludes that what if I strayed no further but choose here? So he says that what if he does not move forward, he does not move further and makes his choice there. He chooses the silver casket. So that shows that the Prince of Morocco was inclined to choose the silver casket, but then a second thought, and he says that he must move and see once again the inscription on the gold casket. So he was half inclined to make a choice of the silver casket, but then he had a second thought and then strayed further to just have a look at the inscription on the gold casket. And when he moves ahead to the gold casket, he says, let's see once more this saying engraved in gold. Who chooseth me shall gain what many men desire. So whoever chooses the gold casket shall gain what many men in this world desire. Why? That is the lady. Then he begins to think of Portia. That Portia is the lady whom the world desires. And it is for this reason that renowned suitors from different corners of the earth, from all four corners of the earth, they come to Belmont in the quest of Portia, okay, to the Colco Strand. And they come there to kiss this shrine. What is a shrine? Shrine is a place where any sacred relic of a holy person is kept. And the pilgrims kiss the relic to show their respect to that holy person. So here, Belmont is referred to as a shrine because Belmont is the residence of the mortal breathing saint. Who is mortal breathing saint? Alive like an ordinary living person, but yet a saint. Portia here is referred to as the mortal breathing saint. So he says that Portia is the lady who is desired by the world because the renowned suitors from all four corners of the earth, they come to Belmont to kiss the shrine, the mortal breathing saint. The Hyrcanian deserts and the vasty wilds of wide Arabia. So you see, these are the Hyrcanian deserts, and then the vast wilderness of Arabia. Okay. They also could not impede the suitors from coming to Belmont. So when the suitors come to Belmont, they have to overcome many natural barriers like the Hyrcanian deserts, the wilderness of Arabia, and also the mighty oceans. So these barriers just appear like thoroughfares. They are just like the main roads, are not able to impede these travelers in any way. And they come to Belmont just to get a glimpse of the fair Portia. Even the watery kingdom, the ocean, whose ambitious head spits in the face of heaven, who almost touches the sky. When you stand at the shores and look at the horizon, it appears as if the ocean is touching the sky. So even these mighty oceans, they cannot prove themselves to be a barrier to stop these foreign suitors from coming to Bellevue, because these suitors, they cross those mighty oceans as if they were small brooks, small streams, and they are able to do so just to see fair Portia. And then he says that one of these three caskets, that is lead, gold, and silver, one of those three caskets contains the heavenly picture of Portia. It is like that lead contains her. If at one moment he thinks that it is quite possible that the lead casket may contain the portrait of Portia, but then he rejects that thought, saying that to even think of that Portia's portrait can be contained in the lead casket would be worthy of damnation. It were damnation. It is a thought that is worthy of condemnation, to think of such a base thought that Portia's portrait can be in the lead casket. Because lead is too dull a metal to even enclose her cerecloth in the obscure grave. Cerecloth means a waxed cloth in which a body is wrapped for burial. So he thinks that the lead casket is so dull, so base, that it could not even contain the cerecloth of Portia. That is the cloth which is used to cover the dead body. Okay. So, or shall I think in silver she is immured? So if it is not in the lead casket, so he says that he may think that Portia's portrait is immured is locked up in the silver casket. But then he rejects that idea, because silver is 10 times undervalued to tried gold. Okay. Silver is 10 times undervalued to tried gold, to tested gold. It is inferior in value to tested gold 10 times. Oh, sinful thought! And it is again a sinful thought to think that it may be in the silver casket. Never so rich a gem was set in worse than gold. Finally, he concludes that never was so rich a gem set in a lesser metal than gold. It is obviously correct to think that Portia, being so fair, virtuous, and beautiful, her portrait is contained only in the gold casket. And he gives an example also. They have in England a coin that bears the figure of an angel. So he says that even in England there is a gold coin that bears the figure of the angel. You see, this is the gold coin I have shown. This is the coin bearing the figure of Archangel Michael. So a gold coin with the figure of Archangel Michael standing upon a dragon, and piercing the dragon. Okay. So such type of precious gems can only be engraved on gold. So it was stamped in gold, but that is insculpted upon. Okay. The figure of the angel is engraved on the gold coin, implying that the figure is outside. Whereas in this case, the portrait of Portia, or the angel, that is Portia, lies inside the gold casket. So he concludes that Portia's portrait is in the gold casket, and he finally decides that he will make the choice of the gold casket. So he says, "Deliver me the key, here do I choose, and thrive as I may." So he asks for the keys of the gold casket, and he makes his choice of the gold casket. And while he opens the gold casket, he prays that may he thrive, may he succeed in his choice of casket. And finally, he opens the gold casket. Then Portia, "There take it, prince, and if my form lie there, then I am yours. So Portia gives the keys to Morocco, saying that to take the keys and to open the gold casket, and she assures that if her portrait lies in the gold casket, then Portia will become uh, of Morocco. She will become the wife of Prince of Morocco. And Morocco unlocks or opens the golden casket. The moment he opens the golden casket, you see what he gets. This is the image. See, a carrion death. Okay. The moment he sees this, you see, he was expecting to find the fair, beautiful portrait of Portia. And does this look fair at all? So he is surprised, he is taken aback. He says, "Oh hell, what have we here? A carrion death, within whose empty eye there is a written scroll. I will read the writing." So he gets as his reward a skull, and within the socket eyes of the skull, empty eyes, there was a scroll. You scroll means a roll of paper on which something was written, and he reads it. So this is the message on the scroll. It reads, "All that glitters is not gold." Often have you heard that told. We often have heard that everything that glitters is not gold. So we should not be deceived by the external appearances of objects. "Many a man his life hath sold, but my outside to behold." So many people have have given their entire life just to see the gold which covers the outside of that casket. Gilded tombs do worms enfold. But the fact is, the tombs which contains the dead bodies of kings, important citizens, they are gilded with gold from outside. But inside the tomb, what do we find? It may be gilded with stone, but inside the tomb, we only get those worms which feed upon the dead bodies inside the gilded tombs. Okay. So the scroll advised that had you been as wise as bold, young in limbs, in judgment old, your answer had not been inscrawled very well. So if the Prince of Morocco had been as wise as he is courageous, bold, had he been a person who is young in his limbs but old in his experience, then he would have never chosen the gold casket, and his reward would never have been the scroll which he was then reading. And the scroll bid farewell to the Prince of Morocco, saying that his suit was gold. His suit was gold means his hopes now are all dead. He has lost in the lottery of casket. And Morocco says, "Cold indeed, the labor lost." He agrees that his suit is cold indeed, and he has lost all his labor. Then farewell heat and welcome frost. "Portia, adieu. I have too grieved a heart to take a tedious leave, thus losers part." So he bids adieu to Portia. He does not stay there to speak any further word, and he, with a heavy heart, with a grieved heart, he leaves Belmont and he parts and exit. The Prince of Morocco exits, and there is flourish of convents. And the moment Prince of Morocco fails in the lottery of casket, Portia is very happy. She says, "A gentle riddance." It is a happy deliverance for Portia. So she asked her servants to draw the curtains again, and she also prays that let all of his complexion choose me so. Let all of his complexion means may all the people, here complexion refers both to the color of the person and also personality. Okay, here in other words it means kind. So she did not like the Prince of Morocco because of his complexion, as he was a man of dark complexion. And Portia also did not like the Prince of Morocco because of his personality, because he had a very boastful personality. Okay. So therefore she says that may all the people who like Prince of Morocco who come to participate in the lottery of casket, may they choose like the Prince of Morocco and fail in the lottery of casket. So she prays for this, and then she also exits from the stage. So this is all about the scene. Prince of Morocco's part, his lottery of casket, his choice of casket, that we will do once again in the live class today. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, and please do not forget to subscribe my channel.